Hi everyone, welcome to today's presentation about security management for the future networks with Check Point R80 and Tufin. We will start in just a minute or so. We're just waiting for the last people to join us. So please bear with us and we'll start in just about a minute. Thank you. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about security management for the future with Check Point R80 and Tufin. We will start in just about a minute. We're just waiting for the last people to join us, so please bear with us. Okay, hi everybody, welcome. Welcome to today's webinar about security management for the future networks with Check Point R80 and Tufin. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ofer Or. I'm the VP of Products for Tufin. With me is Jason Min from Check Point, leading the business development and corporate development for Check Point. And we are ready to go. Just a little housekeeping before you start. If you have any questions, you can find the Q&A box on your screen. You can put in any question that you may have, and we will look at the questions towards the end and try to make sure that we answer all of them. If we miss any questions, then we will make sure that we contact you offline. During the presentation, we'll try to do one poll so that you'll be able to give us a little bit of information about a short question that we asked. And with all that in mind, we are ready to go. So our agenda for today is to first talk about Check Point R80. What is Check Point R80 and what are the new cool capabilities that it brings to the table for the future of security management. Then we'll talk about Tufin and how we work together with Check Point R80 to provide more value to our joint customers. And finally, we'll have time for any questions that you may have. So with that in mind, I will pass the microphone to Jason to tell us all about Check Point R80. Please go ahead.
Great, thanks, Ofer. I'd like to start off with a brief overview on Check Point. We were founded in 1993. We went public in 1996, and as of today, we remain the largest pure-play security company in the world. We started off as a stateful inspection firewall company, and we've added what we call software blades or additional features to our core platform. And this includes IPS, application control, and our Sandblast zero-day protection, one of our fastest-selling features. And we continue to see a lot of consolidation in the industry, and I believe our partnership with Tufin consolidates and simplifies security management, as well as provides the best threat prevention capabilities. Together, we create enormous joint value to the end user, and we're excited to talk about it today. Check Point has over 4,000 employees worldwide, and we added over 1,000 employees in calendar year 2016, which is a testament of the strength and momentum we are seeing in our business. We're strong advocates of women and diversity in the workplace. For us, this starts at the top of our organization and trickles down. As you can see on our website, half of our management team is comprised of women. This includes our CFO and COO, Tal Payne, as well as our CTO, Dr. Dorit Dor, who is the leader of what I believe is the strongest R&D security team in the world. In fact, our friends at Gartner rated Check Point #1 in technology in their most recent network security Magic Quadrant. We're extremely proud of our diversity as a global company and look forward to continuing this initiative into the future, which will be protected, obviously, by Check Point Software Technologies. And some of you may have noticed this slide and noticed this absolutely gorgeous cloud backdrop. The cloud touches our lives in many ways. For example, when we're sitting in traffic and looking up into the sky, we see the cloud. When we're looking at our computer monitor right now and our mobile phones and thinking about its traffic, we see the cloud. The cloud is everywhere and highlights the need for security management. The cloud can also be a very stormy and dangerous place. Therefore, we also prioritize protecting it. So as we grow and our enterprise environments get bigger, our networks are becoming more opaque, complex, and vulnerable. Specifically, the cloud is another piece of the network that represents a single point of failure, and it needs to be protected and managed. So I'd like to kind of define the cloud in three distinct categories: the public cloud, the private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. I'd like to start off with the private cloud. The private cloud is infrastructure that typically sits on-premise that only one company has access to. This makes it private. Also there's virtualization techniques that are used to optimize the hardware, which make it the cloud. And the public cloud is infrastructure that multiple companies have access to, and this makes it public. And finally, the hybrid cloud is a combination of the public and private cloud, where some companies may have workloads and applications in both the private and public cloud. For example, a company may put their high-performance applications or sensitive HR servers on-premise or in the private cloud, and then also use Office 365 in Microsoft Azure, or what is known as the public cloud. So the hybrid cloud is the most common scenario that we see as a company, and it really highlights the need for a unified security management. At the end of the day, Check Point has products to protect all of these environments, whether it's public, private, or on-premise. And all of these products can be managed by one console, which we call R80. So getting to the next slide. So R80 is one of the main reasons our customers choose Check Point, and it sets a standard for reliability and ease of security management. We continue to see enterprises choosing Check Point to secure their modern data center with more automation and higher security between applications. With R80, you only need one console for Check Point's physical, virtual, and cloud security. This ultimately leads to lower cost of ownership and better visibility into the network. Now, with one simple graphical user interface, security teams can manage all aspects of security from policy to threat prevention across the entire organization. You get operational efficiency, simplified management, and avoid overlapping policies and redundant configurations. With the unified policy management, you can create policies harmoniously and efficiently. We've taken a long, hard look at how daily tasks are performed and consolidated, and streamlined features to make it as efficient as possible for the security admin to do his or her work. With R80's automation capabilities, we're paving the way for automated security provisioning and controls. And when it comes to security visibility, we fully integrated threat management into our main console so security teams can pivot quickly from policy to incident response and have a holistic view of their security posture in one single pane. So this is a picture of Check Point's Smart Console, which allows you to configure and monitor all aspects of Check Point's products in one place. In addition to a unified console, you now have a unified policy to manage everything from users to data to gateways. All access points and threat prevention policies are now controlled in one place. And now getting into some specific examples, if you look at line number 2, you'll see that's the social media for the marketing team. And we can set an access control policy on our physical gateway, which is shown on the right here. And this allows the marketing team to access Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And for the rest of us, our lives obviously became more productive and we have more time to do other aspects of our job. On line 3 here, you can see another use case of a rule where you have developers having access to upload and download Java source code to Dropbox and Box. This specific policy is installed on a physical gateway, as well as you see here at our Capsule Cloud offering, which is a strong security as a service product. And here on the last line, you see that many of our users, or all of our users, have access to web servers. And for this, I'd like to highlight, one of the risks that we see in the public cloud, which hosts many web servers from startups. And some of you may have heard about a public cloud going down, which affected, hundreds of thousands or thousands of users and websites, and all these users can access these websites. And this really highlights, the cloud as a single point of failure, where if one part of the cloud goes down, it affects thousands of customers. And in this particular example, it was their web servers, which were hosted in the public cloud. And ultimately, this prevented us as an end user to accessing these websites. So we must keep in mind that security is needed for the cloud, and all of these examples highlight how easy it is to manage Check Point products from one console. So here with R80, you can also segment policies into layers for better management and control. You can delegate tasks and separate duties based on IT role. In the example here, you have Anne, who is in charge of application control and URL filtering, and she is only able to change these rules. Meanwhile, our friend Walter is allowed to manage access to the data centers in the private and public cloud. So you can not only securely distribute responsibilities to a person, but you can also offload responsibilities to automated tasks controlled by policy layer. And here you can see that there's a single view into security risk, and you can provide protection against a variety of attacks. So we may think of typical logs as firewall and VPN logs, which make up the majority of logs. But in the case of security events, you can see in the upper left box that our events comprise of our other blades, our IPS, anti-bot, threat emulation, and antivirus. And you can see how these attacks are associated by geography and time, etc. So it's really a comprehensive view, and you can customize your own reports based on your needs and own requirements. And so our security compliance blade is a very popular blade, an important blade for us, and it also can be accessed from R80 as part of our interface. And for here, you can look at configuration error, or you can understand that configuration errors are a major cause of security exposure, and we want to make your security with Check Point is 100% compliant. And so you can see what rules need to be tuned based on best practices. You can also create your own regulations or deactivate your own regulations. And this is a very strong feature for us, as I mentioned previously. And kind of summarize and conclude on R80, you really have 4 features in one console, and this includes we've integrated logging, monitoring, event correlation, and reporting into the main console. And this provides full visibility and faster incident response, because when an incident happens, you want immediate visibility into who, what, where, when, and how the attack occurred. And with our integrated threat management, besides a unified threat prevention policy that now unifies IPS, anti-bot, anti-spam, you get all of these features into one console. And so we are really focused on tightening these integrations in this most recent release and providing an ease of security management ultimately to you guys. And we're excited with the logging feature where you can isolate and detect real threats in real time. Using a Google-like search, you can search all of these logs by field and other features. And you can also access all these logs with a specific rule by simply clicking on that rule. And also, as Tufin Ofer will get into later, you have access to these logs via the Tufin interface. And with that, I'll wrap it up on R80 and throw the baton to Ofer.
Thank you, Jason. Before we start talking about Tufin, let's try to get a short poll from the audience. And let's try to understand where we are with regards to upgrading to Check Point R80. So, hold on. You should be getting in front of you the simple poll questions. What are your organizational plans regarding upgrading to R80? If you could please tell us where you are, it'll be very interesting. Okay, so just to share the information that we got, the majority are going to upgrade either, hold on. Okay, final votes coming in. So majority are going to upgrade by the end of the year. There are quite a few of you who have already upgraded. Very few who will upgrade next year, which means no one has voted for, or very few people voted for no plans yet. So most of you are on the track to upgrade to R80, which is great, both for Tufin and for Check Point. So thank you for that. So let's start talking about Tufin. Okay, so Tufin at a glance. We are the market leader in the space called security policy orchestration, and we'll explain what that is in just a few slides and what it means for enterprise network security. We have over 1,900 customers worldwide from all sorts of industries, and our flagship product, the Tufin Orchestration Suite, have won numerous awards and have given our customers a lot of value. So let's see what problem we're trying to address and what sort of issues we're trying to help our customers solve. So we'll start by doing a short overview of some of the common enterprise network security challenges. The first big challenge that we see many customers and enterprise users face is complexity. The networks are complex. As Jason said, the cloud has become a big part of everybody's network, which means that today's network is not just consisting of numerous Check Point firewall routers and so forth, but it also has hybrid clouds attached to it, whether it's public, private, or both. The networks have become highly complex, heterogeneous, which means that it's very, very hard to control and keep track of. So that's the complexity part. Next, the network is changing. Again, cloud is a big contributor to that. Cloud environments are changing rapidly. People are launching new services into the cloud, consuming new services from the cloud, and it means that the network is constantly changing, which means that the security for your network needs to change as well to keep up with the threats, the changes, and the business needs. So we can see how all of this chaos of network complexity and rapid changes is contributing to the third challenge, which is cybersecurity. Every day we hear about new cyber attacks, new types of breach, new type of things that the bad guys can do. Luckily, companies like Check Point can help us address those things, but we need to turn on those capabilities and make sure that we are using them to the best of their abilities in order to make sure that all of these threats are contained and addressed. Connectivity is another major challenge, and this is because at the end of the day, our customers care about their business applications, and they want to make sure that their business applications continue to work regardless of what's happening in the network. Networks are changing, new applications are being launched, things are being decommissioned and moved to the cloud. And while all of this is happening, we need to make sure that all of the business applications continue to work as usual, and that we're not introducing any downtime because of misconfiguration or work that we're doing to address some of the issues that we mentioned before, the complexity, the change, or the security. So connectivity is crucial because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the business continues to run. Finally, but just as important, is compliance. Most enterprises worldwide need to be compliant with something. It can be an external regulation, SOX, PCI, HIPAA, NERC, or whatever regulation is relevant for their industry. But it can also be an internal best practice policy that they want to keep track of. And as your environment is changing, as your network is changing rapidly, and as your environment consists of more and more infrastructure, whether it's the Check Point firewalls or things that are running in the cloud, you need to make sure that compliance is kept and that the security administrators have full visibility into their compliance posture. So what is the impact of all these challenges on enterprise IT? So first and foremost, there is a security threat, exposure to cyber threats, which are the most important things that all of us are trying to address. There is a lack of visibility and control. Again, large environments which are heterogeneous, including multiple platforms and devices, physical firewalls, things running in the cloud. All of this is making visibility and control a lot harder. And as a wise man once said, it's very hard to protect what you cannot see. So you must have visibility in order to make sure that you're protecting your important assets. Risk of non-compliance is another big impact and a threat to enterprise IT. And finally, at the end of the day, all of us want it to be easy to manage all of those changes across a heterogeneous environment. So let's see what Tufin does to help you address these issues. Okay, so Tufin provides and helps you maximize your agility and security with network security policy orchestration. What it means is that we're enabling our customers to implement security changes in minutes rather than days. And of course, R80 is a big part of that with all of the new open APIs that Check Point R80 provides. We're enabling our customers to remain compliant and to achieve a state of continuous compliance with whatever security standards that they want to keep up with. And of course, we're reducing the overall complexity of managing hybrid networks. Let's take a look at a few examples on how we do it together with Check Point. So Tufin and Check Point offer network security policy orchestration for the Check Point next generation firewall. It means that we're providing unmatched visibility into the security and audit posture. We're boosting agility with automation for the Check Point firewall. We enable application-driven security management. And we provide unmatched troubleshooting capabilities to help you know exactly what's going on in your network, troubleshoot it, perform what-if analysis, and things of this nature. So let's go into more details on each one of those items and see exactly what are the challenges and how Tufin and Check Point help you address these. So let's start with visibility into your security and audit posture. The key question is, how do you manage your organizational security policy? Obviously, you have one, but you need to ask yourself, is it centrally managed? Is it updated? Is it readable? In many cases, security policies are documented in somebody's head and are implemented in the firewall's security policy, but it doesn't make it necessarily readable. And if you're using more than one firewall vendor, it makes it very hard to track and maintain. When going into the cloud and cloud technologies are being used, such as security groups and other cloud technologies, it makes it even harder. So you need to make sure that your policy are centrally managed, updated, readable, aligned with the enforcement policies that you want, so that the firewalls are actually enforcing the policies that you want, and both are updated. You want to make sure the changes are validated before they actually happen to make sure that you're not introducing any new risk into the system. You want to make sure that you're tracking your security posture and audit posture. And of course, in life, there are always exceptions. So whenever you have a security policy that you want to comply with, there will always be exceptions that you'll need to have in the network, because some things have to work regardless of your compliance policy. So let's see how we address this. So first, we enable our customers to configure a central repository to manage and contain all of their enterprise security policies, whether it's a segmentation policy, a regulatory compliance policy, a policy using a blacklist technology or a whitelist. All of these policies can be managed and stored in a single location. We also offer a single pane of glass to see the violations across all of your firewall environments. So if you're a Check Point customer with a large-scale environment, multiple CMAs, and possibly multiple provider ones or multi-domain security managers, then we'll be able to provide you with a single unified view. Of course, if you have other vendors as well, then they can also be managed from this single pane of glass. We offer centralized exception management, proactive risk analysis, and the ability to manage alerts whenever a new violation is discovered. So we want to show you an example of how this is actually being done in Tufin. So with that in mind, I want to introduce Roy. Roy is one of the product managers here at Tufin, and he will run us through a short demo. So let's activate this demo and make sure that we are all good. Okay. Just a second, we want to make sure that you can see the screen that I'm sharing. Not yet. No? Hold on. Okay, so now you can see my screen. There's a little time lag, so let's just wait for it to be exactly what we're seeing, and we're ready. Okay, Roy, go.
Thank you, Ofer. So hi, everyone. So Ofer just explained about the challenges and how Tufin solved them. So let's see how Tufin solved them with this short video demo. So you can see on the screen, this is how Tufin represents the organization security policy. So basically, you can create a central repository that allows you to configure how you want, what is the desired security policy in your organization. And it doesn't have to be a regular standard. You can do PCI, NERC, and you can create your own, corporate metrics that the organization must follow. So obviously, you can create one metrics or more. Let's see how these matrices look like. Okay, so going into the first metrics, this is an example for the corporate metrics in our environment. And you can see that I have segments over here, from zones and to zones. So basically, it's a segmentation of our network. And you can see the green and orange cells, which basically represent the white and black list. Once we click on one of them, you can configure what is the desired policy between every segment. So in this example, we are allowing a couple of ports with specific properties. So you can define that all of the rules between those zones must contain, must be logged, must contain a comment, etc. You have plenty of information that you can configure here. So the organization, must be followed for those properties. So this is the properties you can configure. And now this is the desired policy. And it's nice that because everything is centralized, it's in one place, you don't have to maintain it in a couple of Excel spreadsheets, etc. But now you want to see what is the actual policy that run against the matrices that you just configured. So if you will go to the violation dashboard in SecureTrack, you will be able to see the actual status for all your firewalls. You can see it for R80, for R77, and each violation basically represents a rule in your firewall. If you will drill down to one of the charts over here, so just a second, trying to sync here with the. Okay, so now you can see the violation dashboard again, and the violation dashboard basically represents the actual status for your firewalls. So it can be R80 CMA or R77, it doesn't matter. You have single pane of glass for all your violations. Now you can see the, once you drill down into one of the charts over here, you can see the actual rules that violate your matrices or one of the matrices. And from here, basically, you have a couple of options. You can fix the issue, or you can create an exception, which we will see an example for that at the end of this demo. Okay, so let's wait for it to be synced. Okay, so now we'll talk about the exception management. After creating your segmentation using the unified security policy in Tufin, you might have some exception in your environment saying, okay, this is from the internal into the external zone. I'm allowing only HTTPS and HTTP, for example. But some of the traffic in this segment is accepted by me. So you can create, using our exception management, an exception for traffic, saying this is not a violation by my end. And then you will not see it in the violation tab, because from now on it will not be a violation. And that can be configured, it's not permanent. You can configure an exception that will be valid for the next month or so. Depends on how you configure that. So we will continue now with the other use cases that we can solve, but keep in mind that all the other use cases and most of the things in SecureTrack Suite, in Tufin Suite, will take into consideration the unified security policy metrics. So everything that you will do in our suite, we will make sure that it's not violating, that you are not violating the compliance and the unified security policy that you've configured here.
Okay, thank you, Roy. So let's go back to the slides. Okay, so we're back on the slides. Okay, so as Roy showed us, the unified security policy is a great way to visually define what is a desired state of security, and then based on that you can check the gaps between the actual state of security, what's configured in the firewall, and what's actually and how that compares to the desired state of security. And based on that, you can address those violations either by adding exceptions or by changing the firewall policy to be more strict and in accordance to the security policy you want to comply with. The next thing we want to focus on is the ability to become more agile with change automation. So the questions that you need to ask yourself here are, how do you make sure that changes are done in a way that is always consistent? Most organizations want to follow a very strict change process where changes are being reviewed first by a business administrator and then by a technology person, and only after they are approved both from a business perspective and from a technology and risk perspective, they are implemented in the firewall. So you want to ask yourself, how do you make sure that this process is always being followed? And in many cases, your auditors will want to have proof that this process is actually being followed. Another challenge that has to do with large-scale environment has to do with the ability to identify on which firewalls a change needs to take place. A change would usually come in a request, I need access from point A to point B, where in fact this access can span multiple firewalls and go across the networks, across the hybrid networks to the cloud, and may actually involve multiple firewalls that need to be changed. And each one may be running a completely different policy. They might be managed by different management domains or CMA, and therefore you need to understand which are the firewalls, how they're being managed, what policies they're running on today, and what change needs to be done on those specific firewalls. You also want to make sure that you're doing a risk analysis before the change is taking place. Again, you don't want to introduce new risk. You don't want to break the compliance policies that you have to keep up with, which we just saw. You want to make sure that you're designing and implementing the change in the most efficient way. And of course, after the change has been implemented, you want to make sure that the change actually addresses the problem that the customer wanted you to address. Sometimes people make mistakes. They think they're opening up a specific port or a specific service or application, where in fact they made a manual error. They didn't understand what the user was talking about, and they're fixed the wrong thing. So you want to make sure that you're verifying the changes. And of course, all of this is happening in a bigger ecosystem. There may be ticketing systems that you need to integrate with, and there may be other enterprise systems that are all in place. This is why changes can sometimes take weeks or days at large enterprises. And with Tufin, we enable our customers to make these changes automatically in minutes. So let's see how. So Tufin solution enables you to build and customize your own workflow to ensure that a very specific change process is taking place. We provide you with several automation tools that will help you become more agile and reduce the human error part of the change process. So for example, we can help you identify which firewalls need to be updated based on the network topology that you have. We can help you do the risk analysis and make sure that no new risks are being introduced into the network. We can help you design and implement the change. We can help you validate that the change is actually the change that the user has requested. And of course, all of this is highly configurable, which means that you can choose the level of automation. It can be a completely automated process with nobody doing anything manually and everything happening automatically. Or it can be an automated process that has some manual parts to it, depending on how you want to configure it for your own organization. Of course, it is all can be smoothly integrated to existing enterprise systems such as ticketing systems, whether it's Remedy, ServiceNow, or others. The Tufin change process can be integrated as part of those bigger tools. So let's take a look at another example and see how we're doing it today. Before we do that, we have a sample workflow that we want to run through you. So let me bring it up. Oops. Some issues with animation. Sorry about that. Okay, Roy, why don't you take us through this amazing workflow process, and you can help us understand how it goes.
Yeah, sure. So this is a description of a typical change request process. Usually there is a requester that he has a request. Please open my traffic. I want to get access from this source to a specific destination, which will represent a server with this specific port, and this is the reason that I need it. This is usually a typical request that you will get. The second step is to identify the relevant targets between the source to the destination. That can be a hard task to do if you're doing it manually, because now you need to analyze your network, your topology map, to see the connectivity, the routes, the interfaces, and to understand exactly the firewall that needs to be that I need to implement my changes on. We don't want to open traffic on firewalls that are not in the path. That can expose us to a risk that we don't want to implement on unrelevant firewalls. Second step is to perform some risk analysis. We want to make sure that the changes will not violate anything in my environment. So we want we are not violating our security policy. Then, if we have a risk, we should probably escalate the ticket, see maybe we need to create an exception, and maybe we need to reject the ticket and go back to the requester saying it's not approved. If it's not making any risk, we need to design the change. And by designing the change, we need to see where to insert this rule. We need to take into consideration that maybe this rule already exists, so we don't need to do anything. Maybe we have a cleanup rule, so we don't want to put it, above a cleanup rule, so it will, beneath a cleanup rule, so it will not be relevant. Many, factors that we need to take into consideration when designing the change. Then we need to implement the changes across all the firewalls. So think of when you have CMAs with multiple gateways, or you have multiple CMAs with multiple gateways. So you need to make change on many devices between the source to the destination. And then the last part is to verify that the changes were implemented correctly on all the relevant firewalls. And also, we need to keep in mind that everything must be documented. If there's a mistake, we want to see when was the mistake and who made it, so we will know to fix it and improve for next time. So everything must be documented properly.
Okay, so let's take a look at an example of what this looks like. So here we go. Sorry about that, Roy. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ofer. So we've just described a flow, like a typical flow to add an access. So we know that there are many other use cases that actually Tufin solves also with Check Point. But in this short demo, we will focus on the flow that we've just described. And in front of you, you can see secure change, which is secure change basically allows you to create a workflow, as you can see here. And a workflow basically will create a process. In the workflow, you will create a process that every user will have to follow in order to accomplish something. And this something can be adding an access, editing an access, removing a server from all the relevant rules, removing rules, etc. There are many use cases that you can solve here. But in this demo, we will see the flow that we've just talked about. So this is an example for a ticket that is using in my workflow. And the thing with the workflows in Secure Change is that they are fully customizable. This is just an example. It's my example, but you can do whatever you want. You can add your own fields, do them in another order, whatever you want, or whatever is necessary for your organization. So in step number one, the requester basically asks for a traffic. Please open the traffic from this sources to this destination with the following port. Then in this workflow, step number 2 is a business approval step, which basically the user needs to approve or reject the needed traffic. And also you can see the next step, step number 3, you can see a little A sign. This is indication for an automatic step. So as Ofer said, where you can configure a semi or a fully automatic workflow, this is a semi-automatic workflow. So step number 3 will automatically find all the relevant targets between the source to the destination, and also it will provide a proactive risk analysis to show me if this traffic will violate my matrices according to the unified security policy that we've just saw in Secure Trust. So let's see, as you can see here, there are no targets. Right now it's agnostic to the targets. Let's move to step number 5. And you can see in step number 5 that we've just discovered some routers, some Cisco routers, and one of the CMAs, one of the R80 CMAs, and we have another R77 SMC here, which were automatically discovered. The next thing that we will see is the risk analysis. We can click on the risk button over here to see how this traffic violates my unified security policy metrics. From here, I have two options, or maybe three. First of all, I can do nothing. I can just, keep with the process and implement the change. The second thing is to create an exception for that, saying I don't mind by this exception. And the third option is to click on disregard, and it will just ignore the risk. So this was the risk analysis, the proactive risk analysis. The next step is to design the change, and that's why we have the designer tool. And the designer tool will take all the information from the requestor, what he wants me to add to the firewall, and it will analyze it against all the relevant targets and policies, and it will show me a suggestion on where and what I need to add into the firewalls. So you can see the first suggestion is to add a new rule into the policy, and the second suggestion is to edit one of the existing rules by adding two new objects to it. So from here, I can actually click on View Rule, see how the new rule will look like. So it's a simulation of the new rule. If I'm okay with that, I can also click on View Policy to see where it will be located. See, it will be above the cleanup rule over here. I can do the same for the suggestion, for editing the rule. You can see that I have an existing rule, and I want to add two new objects to it. And from here, the next step will be to actually implement the changes. So after you are done and you think that the suggestion is right, you can click on Update Device, and we will push the changes into the relevant CMA. So by clicking on Update Policy, Update Device over there, you can see that all the changes were done correctly and everything was implemented properly. Okay, the next step is the verifier. This is the last step for here. The verifier basically shows you whether the changes were verified correctly or not. You can see in our case that the changes were implemented correctly only for the R80 policy, because we've just updated the policy for R80. So we can see that it's green for the R80 and red for the R77. And from here we will need to update the policy for R77, and it will be fully verified.
Okay, thank you, Ray. This is great. So that's another important use case, the ability to automate changes on the firewall policies. So let's see a few more use cases before we wrap up and open the floor for questions. So one of the next key benefits or key enabler that Tufin brings into the table is the ability to move from the concept of managing rules and firewall policies into the notion of managing applications and moving to an application-driven security management. The idea here is very important and very simple. Just think for yourself how many times you had to get a notification from one of your auditors saying that rule number 317 on a specific firewall policy has some compliance issues, and now you had to work backwards to figure out which applications are actually using these rules in order to talk to the application owners and understand how you can change those applications in order to make sure that your firewall policy remains compliant. Well, the concept of moving into an application-driven security management is to start from the application. The idea is to have better correlation between the business application and the firewall rules by starting from the applications. And therefore, instead of checking the firewall rule for compliance, you can check the application for compliance. You can automatically drive changes from application changes rather than translate an application business change into a request for a rule change. And of course, you can use this capability to also migrate applications and the security configurations that are attached to them as applications are slowly migrated or rapidly migrated into the cloud. So let's take a look at how we do this. So our solution is called Secure App. This is a solution that helps you manage the network connectivity and security requirements from an application perspective. We do it by modeling the applications and their connectivity requirements, which help us speed up application rollup and service delivery, migrate applications, and of course, troubleshoot applications and automate changes in the policies based on application changes. So let's take a look at another demo and see how we're doing it with Tufin Secure App. Okay, Rui, why don't you run us through very quickly
Yes.
On Secure App and how we model applications and do things to them.
So in front of you, you can see Secure App, main page, where you can see a repository of applications that you can configure. Let's see how. Let's take a deep dive into one of the applications. And so application is basically comprised out of connection, and a connection basically represents the connectivity that you need for this application. So for example, in my credit card analytics, I need these two connections to work in order to enable this application. From here, you can enter the IPs, the services for this application, check for compliance by clicking on the compliance tab, and again, it will be calculated against the unified security policy that we configured in Secure Track. So once I will click on the compliance tab, I will see the relevant risks that this application might cause, and again, I have the same options as before. After I'm done with the compliance, I can check for, you can see over the left, the red icons. That means that these two connections are not allowed, or basically are not enabled in my relevant firewalls between those sources and destinations. So what I can do from here is click on the Create Ticket button over the right side. And after creating the ticket, this will send me to a secure change after choosing the relevant workflow. So clicking on Create, and then I can see the ticket that comes from Secure App into Secure Change. And then Secure Change will do its magic and its automation tool, and it will enable the right connectivity for this application.
Okay, so great. So that was a small taste of how application-driven management can work. So there was one more final use case we wanted to share with you before we wrap up. So this is a use case for troubleshooting. Obviously, troubleshooting the network is difficult because the networks become more and more complex. They consist of physical networks, virtual networks, and cloud networks. Are always changing, and it requires a combined knowledge that includes both networking and topology knowledge and also security knowledge. You have great tools in the Check Point side to troubleshoot and do what-if analysis to your firewall security policies, but these do not necessarily take all of the network configuration into account. They only take into account what the firewalls are seeing. On the other hand, you can use networking troubleshooting tools which know a great deal about the network but don't understand how the firewalls may impact packets that are passing through the networks, whether they're going to drop them or change them because of technologies like NAT. So Tufin helps you address that by providing an interactive topology map that takes both the security information and the topology information together. So let's take a look at the final demo and see how we do this today. Okay, Roy, take it away.
Okay, Thank you. So as Ofer said, we know that a good troubleshooting tool is crucial, and that's why we've developed the interactive map. First of all, the interactive map you can see on the screen gives you visibility on your network. And we can do that because we have all the information from all the relevant devices, firewalls, routers, load balancers, switches. We take all the networking information and we can build this map. So after showing the map, you can zoom in into one of the devices by searching it on the, you can see on the right side the little search box. So you can zoom in on one of the devices. Once you will click on that, you can see its routes and its interfaces, see the vendor, see the name. So you have many information over here after clicking on the device. After that, we know that, as Ofer said, we want to do troubleshooting. So to troubleshoot an issue, you can go to the path analysis tool, and the path analysis tool will let you enter a source, destination, and service. So let's say someone will call you, say, I'm trying to get to a specific server and it doesn't work. So you can just enter the credentials here, enter the relevant IP addresses, and run a path analysis. And you can see over the left side the actual path going through the NS6 and the R80 gateway over here. And you can see the little icons saying that this traffic is allowed. I can enhance and go deeper, clicking on the relevant firewalls, right-clicking on it and choosing the show matching rules, and that will give me the security level for the troubleshooting. So I will be able to see if this traffic is allowed or not, and which rule allows or blocks my traffic.
Okay, great. Thank you, Roy. Really useful stuff. So to wrap up and to leave a few minutes for questions, I want to summarize. So together, Check Point and Tufin provide network security policy orchestration with unmatched visibility to security and audit posture, with great agility with automation for the Check Point Firewall. We enable application-driven security management, and of course, as we just saw, have real cool troubleshooting abilities. So with all of that in mind, I want to open the floor for questions. Of course, you can visit us at the next Check Point CPX event if you want to see or get more information about Tufin. There is also some content available online. But now I would like to open the floor for your questions. So if you have any questions which you haven't put in yet, please put it in the question box and we'll be happy to answer. Okay, so as questions come in, I'll start answering a few questions, and also there are some questions for Check Point, so I'll call on Jason to help me with some of those. So there is a question about Tufin and the Check Point compliance blade. So basically, the Check Point compliance blade is a great capability that allows the Check Point customers to make sure that their Check Point firewalls are aligned with all sorts of pre-CAN compliance standards to be better prepared for audits. Tufin complements these capabilities by offering a centralized multi-vendor repository to define and manage organization security policies in a visual way that may span multiple platforms, multiple vendors, and go beyond the capabilities the Check Point has. So if you have a multi-vendor environment, or if you're using cloud technologies and have some security groups which are not necessarily covered by the Check Point management, Tufin can offer you a great value. And of course, a lot of the benefits of the unified security policy has to do with our policy visualization capabilities. So that's on that. Jason, I see that there are some questions about Check Point R80. So there is a question about Check Point R80 and its APIs, and what has changed in the market to enable Check Point to open up its APIs?
Yeah, thanks, Ofer. So, what we're seeing from the outside world is they want to see leading security companies work together and at the end of the day better protect them and simplify their security posture. So we're always listening to our customers, and we make every effort to prevent all of the merging and zero-day threats that are created every day. So working together with one of our most important technology partners, such as Tufin, really helps us accomplish these goals. And so getting back to your question, the open APIs make it easier to work with Tufin to ultimately protect the customer environment. And so by default, R80 provides access to security and audit logs that Tufin can consume, and that's kind of the key use case for our integration.
Great. Thank you, Jason. I'm trying to find a few more interesting questions. So there's a question about can you change the order of the rules, the rule placement as part of the Tufin automation? So definitely yes, it's something that you can control so that the policy will look closer to what you want. This is part of the granularity that we provide our customers. It can be fully automated where we choose the rule placement, or we can allow our customers to choose it themselves.
So I can chime in. I see two questions that I could answer. One is around the GDPR regulation. And so for those of you not familiar with the European Union, their general data protection regulation, this revolves around, protecting user information and sensitive information. So obviously Tufin and us working together, we want to provide visibility into the network. And at the end of the day, we want to protect sensitive user information. I can't comment on other companies such as, Apple and Facebook and how they think about user information, but, that's something that, both of us are cognizant on. And then the question about does R80 support FQDN, a famous acronym that, stands for Fully Qualified Domain Name. This is essentially a way to configure a domain object. And yes, this will be available in R80.10. And for, questions about backporting it to an early version such as R77, I'd say, submit a ticket to our Solution Center.
Great. Jason, thank you very much for that. And of course, thank you for joining this presentation today. Unfortunately, our time has run out. So we would like to thank you all very much. There is some information about the joint Tufin and Check Point integration as part of the resource area in your screen. And of course, if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact your Check Point or Tufin contact, or find us online or in CPX, and we'll be happy to answer. So again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Jason, thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you.